The more you go to the left, the more you can move to the right. I guess you could say the dance between poles fundamentally amounts to completion. But conventionally, we are taught that we must identify with a side instead of experiencing the broader spectrum. That being said, one side of the story can never be the full story. And by now you must be wondering and asking yourself, what's he on about? Rightfully so. Well, as you might or might not know, there are two very popular existential functions of being. One is considered as feminine and the other as masculine. And we are often told that the man is supposed to be masculine and the woman feminine, soft, which I'd say defeats the whole purpose and point of experience, because to be human is to be whole. When a woman identifies only with femininity, she cannot deepen into it. Instead, she flattens the potential. And when a man identifies only with masculinity, the same thing happens. And why, you might ask? It's because depth requires contrast. You don't arrive at true femininity by clinging to the idea of softness. You arrive there by having the strength to surrender. Likewise, you don't arrive at true masculinity by being rigid or dominant. No, brother. No. You arrive there by having the sensitivity to act consciously. So, to be deeply feminine, one must have access to the masculine. To be deeply masculine, one must have access to the feminine. Not as an idea, but as a lived reality. Although, in order for that to happen, one would inevitably be propelled to find balance within, in the sense that one must learn to express one's masculine nature if one be a woman, and the reverse is absolutely true of man. In order to be truly masculine, not as an ideology, but as a fundamental reality, one would have to incorporate the feminine aspect of being within one's experience. Which takes me back to the initial opening line of this talk. The further you go to the left, the more you can move to the right. The further you go to the right, the more you can move to the left. That's to say, to be more masculine, one must become more feminine. And the reverse is also true. Otherwise, we are just living at the center of things, but not really centered. It's much like being centered, but only on the surface. So if we hope to reach the core, we must move from left to right by embracing both aspects of being. And the rate of interplay will determine the extent of existential stability, or rather one's sense of balance. The dance between polarity will create the necessary directional energy, which will penetrate into one's being until the core of experience and true point of balance is reached. But here's the main takeaway. The range of experience is born from polarity. Wholeness is born from integration. Masculine and feminine are not necessarily genders. The understanding of gender that we often identify with is merely a limited idea which was conceived by man's finite mind. However, in truth, masculine and feminine are fundamentally functions of being. And a human can become whole only by integrating both. The further you move into one polarity, the greater access you have in its opposite. That's to say, true masculinity requires femininity. True femininity requires masculinity, because balance isn't found by superficially staying in the middle, but rather it's forged through the integration of contrast. Like the earth, we dance through layers until the core is reached. So, polarity shouldn't divide us. It was never meant to divide us, but rather it was meant to show us depth. Because this depth is the gradual revelation of true self, which is something I would like to believe is sought by almost everyone on this planet, although we seek it in many ways, and we often seek it in the wrong places, because most of us look for it outside of ourselves. We look for it in partners. We look for completion in partners, and we come to call those partners our other halves. That kind of relation is transactional more than anything, but if it works for you, of course, I can't really dispute that. That's all on you, but I can only imagine that we desire healthy selfless relations, and this doesn't have to be a romantic relation. It can be platonic, it can be relation with family, but we want it to be pure. At least that's what I would like to believe, because for me personally, That's how I see things being, or at least that's how they should be. But they're definitely not that way, because most of us are not content with our own experience. We are too fixated with other people's idea of reality, which can never be our own, but we internalize that nonsense. And we inflict misery on ourselves. We assimilate suffering. But yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it at that. I wanna make it a point that I stay aligned to the fundamental concept of this channel, which is well encapsulated in the name of the channel, A Quick Thought. And so I'll try my best to make these videos concise, to keep the thoughts quick, although once I start talking, it becomes very hard because there's so much to say and so much little time. But of course, more videos are sure to come, and I trust that you found value in this one. And if you did, I would appreciate your subscription, and I would so wish that you also appreciate you subscribing to this channel, because it's not for me really. I guess you could say I'm doing it for fun, but it would be nice to have my fun be your insight. I don't want to say medicine, because even if you do receive the medicine, it's up to you to take the medicine and take it appropriately. Now, with that being said, my beautiful friend and fellow human being, stay well. You got this. The outside world doesn't really matter as much. I'm not saying it doesn't matter at all, but not as much as we would like to think, because you experience it within yourself. So if you learn how to experience yourself the way you prefer, then everything else becomes a bonus added on top of the initial blissful experience, which is inherent in you. I mean, you were once in that position. Just try to remember. I'm referring more particularly to your childhood. Although you might have had adverse situations play out during your childhood, but I can bet that it didn't really feel that way. At least you were not so in your mind about your struggles like you are now. So find it within yourself, because life was meant to be enjoyed, and learn to enjoy everything about life. Don't be so selective, because your selectivity will deprive you of experiences which were meant to grow you in ways you couldn't even imagine, ways which you couldn't grow yourself if you intentionally took yourself there. But you can't, and you just have to trust the flow of life, which is pure intelligence and ultimately potential, because potential unfolds, right? Much like how experience as life, the life that you are, unfolds. So trust the process. That's basically what I'm saying. And with that being said, And I'm saying this for the last time now. I hope. But yeah, love and light. Until next time, take care. Cheers.